Good afternoon. If you're on the East Coast, if you're on the West Coast, good morning. Dr. Gary Rademacher from the Business Academy. Welcome to today's webinar. And today I have with me Dr. Kent Rookstool. And Kent, first off, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and to share what I know.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it really helps a lot of people to see what kind of experiences people have and whatnot. But to start off, can you give everyone a quick overview of your practice, where you're located, and what kind of patients you serve?
Yeah, so we are in Central Oregon, kind of in a smaller town, and been around in practice for like 13 years. Was doing more CBP focused, but it's changed a bit over the years. Now we're integrated. We're doing regenerative medicine, rehab, chiropractic. I have a chiropractor and a nurse practitioner, and
Mhm.
then the normal support staff, I'd say. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just really changed so much since I started with TBA. So I'm excited to tell you about those differences when it's time.
Yeah, before we get into that, thank you. But before we get into the business academy, what did your practice look like in terms of growth and stability before you actually came on board with the business academy?
Well, the growth was kind of stagnant. Um, like on paper, it probably a lot of people would have thought it was an awesome practice because we were collecting 1.9. Um, and seeing a lot of people. I mean, it was good that we were making a difference in the community for a lot of people. The downside was that the profit was always up and down, all over the place,
Mm.
unpredictable. And there seemed to be like way too much drama in the office, like just in between my own employees. Um,
You're talking to everyone here right now. Who can relate to drama in your office? Been there. I think we all have been there. And yeah, it's I've had conversations with you in the past, and you've mentioned, good months, and some bad months, and sometimes even needing to reach into savings to make payroll. What do you think caused that inconsistency back then for you?
well, now I know. Like once you start with the business academy, they're just like it's just kind of black and white, and you have it. But at the time, um, I don't know. I just knew something was missing. Um, and I think that most chiropractors, or at least the ones I talk to, kind of know intuitively that it's something with us, something we're doing, something that we're not able to break through, or we're focusing on the wrong things or something. Um, because yeah, I was just inconsistent, and there's months where I was like, "Am I going to go out of business?" And then months where I was like, "Wow, I've never made this much money in my life." Um, I don't know if I really answered your question, but
No, I mean, you're painting a picture here for everyone, which is fantastic. And
yeah, that
go
was
ahead.
the problem was I had ideas of what was causing it, but I didn't really know. You know what I mean?
And that's actually a very true statement. I know in my practice at times, my first 10 years, I didn't know what I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
I call that like being unconsciously incompetent on what you're doing. I mean, because most of us go to school, we spend all this money on how to be a provider, and we spend very little time on being a business. And so, when you spend, I mean, nowadays, there's providers coming out $200,000-300,000 in debt, and when you ask them, have you spent any money on how to be a business? It's like zero. And so, I've always said that learning through experience is very expensive. And I know it was for me for those first 10 years I was in practice. I struggled as well, and it was because I didn't know what I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, someone comes along and shows you like a blueprint of what you should be doing, and now you become, consciously incompetent. Now you don't know, you know, and now it's just like you got to groove things in, right? And so that's
Uh-huh.
what Quentin does at the Business Academy. Did a really good job. So for those of you who are on here, you'll see on your chat that comes up here in a bit. You'll see an opportunity if you're on here to have a strategic plan. Have him take a look at your office, and it's a 1 to 2 hour conversation on what's currently going on in your practice, and you can, it's complimentary. You can take us up on that. Um, at that point before joining the Business Academy, Kent, what was your biggest frustration or challenge as an owner?
Um, it was kind of two things. One was being stressed about employees, basically. That was probably the biggest one, the thing that made me lose sleep the most at night.
Hmm.
And that at times made me not want to come back into the office, if I'm being just
Yep.
totally honest right now. And
Yeah.
then the other thing was feeling like I didn't have enough energy or people, like trained people, to actually
Hmm.
move forward and get things done that I knew needed to be done. But
Hmm.
just I always put off. I had this like growing to-do list for someday.
Yeah. I hear you. So let's talk about better times. Maybe not quite better, but I want to get into the turning point with working with the Business Academy. So, first off, what first attracted you to the Business Academy, and what made you decide to join?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Uh, well, I'd actually been talking to the Business Academy on and off for like 10 years, and I didn't
Wow.
really realize it that they'd reached out to me before. And I was just following what my friends were doing though, and doing other
Hmm.
coaching companies, which I've done a lot of.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I was outgrowing my coaching companies. I was doing what they said, and I got to where they were, and then I was doing
Hmm.
better. And then I kind of created this big. I like the book Profit First. It talks about the cash eating monster,
Yeah.
but I kind of like had ended up creating that on accident. And and then I'd worked with some other people that had really big, really successful businesses, and they were all using the Business Academy or stuff that was a lot like theirs, coaching companies similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I was just like, all right, it's time. Like what I've been doing isn't working. I'm not getting to the next level. I'm just getting more stressed out. And so that's when I called Quentin back and I was like, all right, where do we go from here?
Yeah. That's awesome. You're
Yeah.
not alone there. What you just said reminds me of, like, my dad used to tell me, birds of a feather flock together. Like, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. And a lot of times we find ourselves in just maybe not the best circles for expansion and growth. If I know that when I was in different groups 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they always helped me. But what I realized was that some of the people I were hanging out with, I was doing a little bit better than them, and I was like the big fish in a small pond, per se,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so sometimes you got to find another swimming hole, but in any case, once you got started, what were some of the first things that really made a difference in your practice?
Let me think about that for a second.
I know there's a lot because we hit a lot, right? I mean, when you look at
Yeah.
an organization, but maybe something that just jumps off into your mind of,
Yeah.
hey, what was this one or two things that I did that made an impression?
Well, right away, they start teaching you basically the business academies, they teaching you these formulas and giving you some black and white tools to handle situations and answer questions. So it's no more like, I don't know what to do. And so I'm just going to kind of let time go by and see what happens. It just right away, you start to get some confidence about things that you weren't sure about before and just some
Yeah.
answers. And it just, you can look at a situation and just know right away. And so I would say the first thing that happened was I started to take time out of problems, just like, oh, something comes to me. And I would just be like, well, let's apply what I learned. And then the problem goes away.
Wow. Wow,
So,
that's a powerful statement. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Can you give me an example? Maybe something you implemented that led to immediate improvement? Like, first thing I think of is like maybe an organizing board or putting
Yeah.
statistics in on your staff, or some examples.
Yeah. So the org board was huge. We had some turnover and people were moving positions and things like that. And people would come to me with ideas of who should be doing what and how they should be doing it. And once I had the basics of organization, like what the business should look like and how it should run, and why certain people shouldn't be crossing over into certain other people's jobs or lanes,
Hmm.
that cleaned up really fast. And I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense for the front desk to be doing that because they're doing a rehab tech job. Like they need to stay in this position, they need to stay in that position, and it just like cleaned it all up, made it smoother, um, saved energy and time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about like just some of your results in expansion. You said that for the first time in a previous conversation that you've had stable expansion, and even your down months are higher than your best months used to be. What would you say is driving that consistency now?
Well, getting rid of the drama is nice. Just
Yeah,
at some point, I just realized that it wasn't around anymore, that I just like kind of got up above it somehow. And and so it just doesn't come to me like it used to.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You
and then having those tools like the organization board and this how to actually use your statistics. Like I always knew my main numbers, but I didn't necessarily know what to do with them and how to
mhm.
use them to make decisions. And having that has just been huge. Like feeling like
Yeah,
I'm actually in charge of what happens with my numbers. Like I control them,
yeah,
not the weather, not the environment, like the economy,
mhm.
you know,
Yep, great.
and being able to teach that to my team. So I guess this was a long way to figure out that the, the big thing for my continued expansion is teaching everything I learned to my team so that now they become like little CEOs inside my business.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if you want to expand, right? Like, at some point in time, you're going to have to, teach your team and educate your team and give them standard operating procedures so that they can do the different areas of your organization. And if not, you stay small, right? Because if you're doing everything, invariably, you're putting fires out all the time and you put attention on to areas that need help, but then you're not paying attention on the other areas. And so your office can seem to be like a roller coaster, right? So up and down, like great months, then some not so good months. And so it's really cool to see how well you're doing, especially like your income levels are getting off the charts, and you're also taking a lot more time off than you've ever taken, and
Mhm.
your office continues to go, which probably everyone here is somewhat interested in, because I know that I know freedom is thrown out there a lot in this industry, but to me, freedom, my definition of freedom is being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you're, on a beach the whole time, right? But it really just means that you're able to play the game that you want to play, whether you're wearing that CEO hat. Maybe some of you want to be treating patients all the time, and that's what you love to do, but maybe you need a management team that's built up around that so that they're taking a bulk of the management duties while you're loving and serving your patients. And so it just really comes down to what that freedom looks like. And for some of us, we'd love to take a week or two vacation and our office continues to grow, and spend more family time. I know that was a big thing for me before I joined the business academy is I would take a 4-day weekend and, you know, when I was in my office, I'd be thinking of vacation. Then when I was on vacation, I'd be thinking of the office because every time I left, the office struggled. Has anyone else been there? Am I the only one there? I mean, I've been there. So it's really refreshing when you put these systems in and you start to create an office and an organization which you've always dreamed of. Now, do you mind if we talk like what your gross income is right now?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Is it is that fine? Okay, so what would I believe you're north of 200,000 a month, right?
Yes. Yeah. Our best was 340, I think. And now we're
Okay,
averaging like 250.
250. That's great.
Yeah.
What does that represent to you in terms of progress and control, knowing that you've gotten to those types of numbers?
Well, I don't have to worry about if we're going to be open anymore or not. That's nice.
That's very nice.
And
That's
then
refreshing.
all of a sudden, opportunities that have been coming to me that I wouldn't have seen as opportunities before. I would have seen them as like a risk, like
Hmm.
not worth taking. But now I have some like security and stability. Um,
Yeah.
and
Wow,
doors
that's
open.
huge.
Yeah. And then the most I was kind of just, this was really sinking in over the weekend from a text from Quentin. But the craziest thing is that I'm taking more time off than ever. I'm averaging working 13 days a month in the office.
Wow.
Income just keeps going up and getting better.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I started taking at least a week off every month at exactly 1 year from starting with TBA.
Wow.
Uh,
That's fantastic. And
and so
and you're
now
working on
I'm on it.
yourself. You're doing different things to continue to work on yourself and, sharpen the axe and just your ability as a CEO and a provider and a family man. And I know you're doing a lot of those things with your, that time with your family as well. So it's really great to see that. Um,
Thanks.
let me go to your team just for a second. You now have like an office manager in place. You have case managers in place that do your report of findings process. You have an associate doctor. You have a nurse practitioner in place. How do they help the office run smoothly, even when you're away? To your point that you just said, like you're gone more now than ever before. How is it? Um, how do they help the office run so smoothly right now?
Well, the short answer is because I did what TBA taught me. But
I didn't pay him to say that, guys. I did not
yeah,
pay. I did
no.
not pay him to say that.
Um, Basically, I just, taught them what I learned. Like, this is how a business should be ran. Can Gary or Quentin, you guys know the big companies? I always forget their names that are using a lot of these same systems, but like Sony, um, Nike, I know there's a ton of them. Every time I see the list, I'm like, oh, wow. But we just basically they take these principles that are almost like the laws of physics that apply to business, and then you put
Hmm.
them in your business, and they can be taught to anyone. And
Yeah.
so you don't have to be there. You don't have to make every decision. You don't have to do all the work.
Yeah, so true. There's over, I believe, 140,000 small businesses using this type of business technology that are using it and winning with it every day. So to your point, we brushed up on lifestyle and freedom. I want to touch on that a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
To your point, you're now able to take a week off every month plus extra vacations. That's rare for most owners. What does that kind of freedom feel like for you? I mean, how does that make you feel?
Uh, well, like I said, it didn't really sink in until last weekend because, all this stuff kind of just happens. I don't have to force it since I've started with the Business Academy. Um,
Mhm.
but it feels really good. It makes me really happy because I have a 5-year-old daughter and a wife,
Mhm.
and everybody says their family is the most important thing, but when you can actually show that through your actions and where you spend your time is really cool because
Yeah.
they understand why I go to work, but they don't really understand how much of that's for them. So being able to spend more time with them and pour into them more has been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't know. I lost a lot of time with my kids, when I was starting businesses and they were younger. And so I'm envious of how quickly you've gotten to where you're at and getting that quality time. That's really fantastic. You also didn't you go to Legoland here recently?
Yeah, that's where we just were. I got back last night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you were there for how long were you there for?
I flew out Thursday morning and then got back Monday night. So however long that is.
Yeah,
Few
that's great.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then while
So
I was there, I'm getting texts from my case manager on like her closes and successes and wins and things like that. And I'm getting all my stats coming into me and people's plans on how to handle their stats.
that's
So,
so awesome. So you're literally at Legoland. I've never been there before. Is there rides or something like that? Or I mean,
yeah, it's like a mini Disneyland
okay. So
at the Legos.
you're on rides getting texts from your team about your expansion and your closing cases and your office is growing. Um, what a treat. I mean, that would totally like put me in the moment of having fun because
Yeah.
when I used to go on vacation, I'd be worried about what was going on. It's so great. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, that was me for a
Um,
long time. I even had my last coach, he would always joke. He's like, "Oh yeah, when you go on vacation and leave your office, it takes the first 3 bottles of wine before you enjoy your vacation because you're so stressed." And
yeah.
now it's not that way. I'm just like, "Oh, they got it." And if they don't have it, I know how to fix it when I get back. But they
Yeah.
always have.
That's great. So I want to move on to systems and team replacement real quickly. And by the way, guys, as we're going here, remember to hit that link to set up that call with Quentin. It's just, it's that free practice analysis. And also just let you guys know, and maybe Quentin, towards the end, you can chime in on this. We do have a convention coming up in December. We have a workshop this actually in a few days. If anyone wants to come and do a discovery day with us there, it's in Largo, Florida. Um, but from a planning standpoint, maybe the December works out better. We have a convention going on. We'll do another discovery day there. So you guys can get with Quentin on joining us at that discovery day. Um, turning towards systems and team replacement, because I know for me, does this relate to anyone? Like, I would have a staff member that I knew shouldn't be there, but I wouldn't let them go because if I let them go, guess who'd be doing the work? This guy. And so I'd hold on to people longer than I should, and it would actually be infect the group and whatnot. You've built systems strong enough that when someone leaves, you can train new team members and still expand. How did you get to that point, Kent?
Man, it's the same thing. Like I don't want I want to be specific for you guys, but basically that's part of the organization and business skills that TBA teaches you is how to have everything in a way that it can just be transferred from one person to another and how it should be done.
Yeah.
Um, and then we have enough like cross training too, where we don't really miss out. We're not like, oh my gosh, the building's on fire until we get someone. Everybody can kind of like jump in. They understand the systems and they can all help out.
Yeah. Let me give some context to this to everyone here so that you can kind of see what we're doing at the Business Academy. So, Kent had mentioned an organizing board earlier, and in essence, there's different ways that you can look at an organization, but the basic organization has 7 divisions in it. You have an executive division, you have a front desk or communications division, you have a report of findings division, you have a treasury division, you have a production division. So, regardless of the treatments that you provide, whether you're chiropractic, maybe you do rehab, if you do decompression or shockwave, if you do regenerative medicine, if you do functional medicine, it doesn't matter. All those services would fall underneath Division 4. In Division 5, you have quality control, right? You got to make sure you're handling upset patients, upset staff, um, and putting training in and whatnot. And then you have your marketing division. And so the Business Academy, what we're really well known for is helping someone to put systems in those different areas of your organization. Speaking to the group here, some of you are really strong, let's say maybe in marketing, but maybe you have a hard time with conversions. Maybe some of you convert everyone that comes in, but you just don't have any new patients. Like the 3 biggest barriers that we see at the Business Academy is the inability to get new patients in is the first barrier. The second barrier is converting patients onto care, regardless of the amount of the cost of your program. When you learn how to actually increase a patient's awareness, whether you're charging 1,000 or 20,000, it doesn't matter. When you find out what a patient values and what motivates them, you'll have a high conversion rate. And the third barrier is this organization that we're talking about itself. We don't have standard operating procedures, for instance, maybe in your front desk systems or in your HR area, or maybe you don't have a really good report of findings process. These are all systems. And to, in essence, scale a business, you have to have systems put in throughout your organization. If you don't have systems, then instead of you controlling your organization controls you. And so just to put some context to this a little bit, um, you know, Dr. Rookstool, like what advice would you give another doctor who feels like everything depends on them right now? Because you put yourself in a position now where you're not doing everything anymore. You have a team put in place. And I'm sure there's people on here who are in the position you used to be in, where everything relies on them. What advice would you give them at this point in time?
Um, you have to, I literally was just talking to my office manager about this. Basically share your power. You have to give those other people around you power to do things on their own. But you have to be ready for it. You don't want to like give someone power and then freak out and take it all back because you get stressed out. You have to do it in the right way to build them up, basically, so that you know that they're going to do it close to as good as you, if not better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Um,
One
Go ahead.
on the organization and systems you were talking about, one thing that I really liked was in the past going from coaching system to coaching system to coaching system, they'd have all these scripts that you needed to learn and you needed to change the types of visits you had and sometimes even the things you offered in your office. But with the Business Academy, I didn't change any of my services and I didn't really change any of my patient flow. That stuff was really good already. Um, it did get better. My communication and education got better, but it wasn't things I had to change. It was for me personally, it was working on myself and working on my business skills and organization skills. So it was other things. Because to me, anyways, signing up for a new coaching company, I was always like, I don't want to start over. I don't want to have to like memorize all this other stuff. But
Yeah,
you can use your existing systems for patients, which you're probably already good at, and add the stuff in that's missing that
yeah,
you don't know.
yeah. I liken it to, how we've gone over be, do, have before. Like, be is like, what's your beingness, and I've described this before. Like if I'm talking to a couple different chiropractors, and I have, let's say, one office who's doing 100 visits a week, and then there's another office seeing 400 visits a week. If I was to take the person who's seeing 100 and put them into the 400 visit a week office, what typically is going to happen to those numbers? Are they going to keep them the same, improve them, or are they going to crash?
Yeah, they're just gonna go back to what they're used to.
Yeah, it's gonna go down, right? Versus if I take the person who sees 400 a week and I put them into the 100 visit a week office, they're probably going to bring those numbers up, right? And it's because they have a different type of beingness about them. They have different education, they have different knowledge, they have a different doingness, the whole be, do, have. So, like, for instance, for all of you on here, like, if you have a desire to have a certain level of havingness, the beingness of you who's here right now, you're going to have to change who you are to address these problems here, to actually come up to this level of where you want to be. Does that make sense? And so we have to act because if you knew how to do it, you'd already be there. Does that make sense? If you knew where you wanted to, if you have this idea of, hey, I want my office to double, let's say, or whatever that might be, if you knew how to do it, you'd already be there. And so usually it's just, sharpening the axe, learning some things that you need to learn, and then applying it, and you'll find yourself there. A lot of this stuff is very reproducible. How many people do you meet at the Business Academy that have multiple offices? They're doing 7 digits plus. We have people doing 15 million a year, and it's a lot of it is just because they've learned the operating systems and the standard operating procedures that they need to put into place.
Yeah. Yeah, those people when I go to the events are all around me. Um, in my other coaching groups, I was kind of that big fish like you talked about. And then
Mhm.
I go to the Business Academy and there's just so much for me to learn,
Yeah.
surrounded by
Yeah.
people that are where I would like to be.
Yeah. That's what I love about the group. There's always you can always learn something, right? Because there's so many people doing different things, different types of businesses, different types of healthcare. But they're just, again, you're not the biggest fish typically there. But yeah. Um, you know, well, we're going to open up for Q&A here for Dr. Rick Stool in just a second. And then also, if you have any questions for myself or Quentin, you can fire away here in just a second. But if someone is watching this and is on the fence about getting help from the Business Academy, what would you say?
Um, I don't want to just say do it. That's what everyone says.
Nike ad? You don't want to be like a Nike ad? Just do it.
Yeah. Well, basically, I would think about your purpose. Like, why do you go to work? Like for me, it was my family and and myself, and I knew I could do better, and I knew there was something out there that I didn't know. Um, so if you actually think about why you actually go to work every day and why you put in that time away from the other things in your life, um, whether it's your own family or your community or your own purpose, this is definitely going to help you get there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in closing, for you, Dr. Kent, is what's next for you in your practice? Any big goals on the horizon for you?
Yeah, opening up in the town next door. I've started some conversations about that. That's one of those opportunities that kind of uh, just started to make sense. So,
You know what? You make up a really good point. Let me just share this with the group. So, when you're starting a business, right? You're three people in one, right? Number one, you're the founder and the dreamer. Two, you're the manager, and three, you're the technician. Meaning that when you're treating patients, you're a technician. And when you're wearing all three hats, what typically happens is there's opportunity around us all the time. Each and every one of us has opportunity. But when you're in the trenches day in and day out, you tend to not take advantage of those opportunities. And so like Kent, if you were to go back pre TBA, would you be thinking of a second office?
uh, I actually, so my plan was always to have another one, but then I stopped it. I stopped dreaming about it because I felt like it wasn't possible. I just,
Yeah.
I wasn't getting any closer year after year.
Yeah. That's exciting. Yeah. The point that I was making with the group here is that like when you put systems in and you get a good management team working with you, um, you're going to start seeing those opportunities that are already around you and that you can take advantage of if you choose to, but it's amazing the doors that open when you put order in and not live in chaos. But in any case, any questions for Dr. Rickstool? You can use your chat. You can use your chat and just throw in a question, or if you want, you can unmute and fire away. Any questions? No questions? Anything. It can be on marketing, on your conversions. It can be on systems. It could be on hiring, firing, HR. Any questions for Dr. Rickstool? Or Quentin for that matter, or myself. Hey, here we have a question. How can the Business Academy help to grow a PT-based practice? Um, I can tell you, Katrina, that it doesn't matter the services that you provide. These are business systems, and they work whether you are in PT or chiropractic or medical. We train medical offices as well. Um, we're not sitting here training you on how to take care of a patient. The training is more based on your systems that you put in so you can have a really well functioning oiled machine. The question Frank had for you, Dr. Kent, is how many employees do you have in total and what percentage is your overhead?
I have 10 employees and my percent overhead changes a lot.
How about this? On average, what's your, if you took it the last 6 months, what's your average profit?
Uh, about 60 a month.
Okay, good. It's good living. How many of you guys could live on 720,000 a year? Good problem. Good problem.
Yeah, it's
The only problem, the only
great.
problem I see, Dr. Kent, is you're paying more taxes. We're gonna have to start putting some tax strategies together for you.
Yeah, and that kind of information is all around you at TVA.
The other thing that I would add to that, Frank, is the more that you remove yourself from the practice and that you hire other people to do the work in it, um, the higher your overhead percentage can go. But if your overall number continues to go up, and then your overhead goes up because you're buying yourself that time to be out of it, sure, if you're in there doing everything yourself and you've got one CA, you could be running at a 20% overhead. But the more that that kind of grows and you've got more that goes along with it, I mean, I'm sure Kent, you could say this, your top line keeps going up. And as long as you're managing what those things look like, and we do a whole financial planning as training as well to show you what that looks like so that you make sure that you're continuing to take more home.
Yeah, and that number, is growing all the time too with these systems. Yeah. I really liked that financial prosperity seminar that I did. It helped me so much. That's when I started to really see my savings change.
That's awesome. Love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
All right, well,
great.
we got a few more questions here. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, we got Robert is asking him, I'm buying a practice and want to expand the practice, but the current owner that wishes to stay on after the transition. Not sure. How do I rally this a small staff to be open to expansion? So there's a couple questions in there, but it's a little incomplete, I believe, Robert, on the current owner that wishes to stay on after the transition. maybe that's just a statement. How do I rally the small staff to be open to expansion? You want to take that, Quentin or Kent?
I can tell you
So
what, yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, the first thing that I would say, Robert, is obviously if you take over as the owner, fair enough. I mean, if that guy's going to stay on and continue to to adjust for you, he has to realize that his role has changed and he is now the adjusting doctor, and you've got to put that hat on him and make sure that you fully take over the ownership hat. The second thing is that when you expand a practice and when you go to do, a whole lot more that goes along with it. Be ready for staff turnover. That doesn't mean that those people are bad. It means that as you grow, those people were great in a certain place, but as that changes, many times the staff is just not right for that. And we've got systems to be able to help you with hiring new staff. And like Dr. Kent was saying, the more that you put the systems in place, you can just slot the next right person in and do that. And it doesn't, and just don't get personal with the fact that it didn't work out for that one.
Great. Another question is, what is your marketing strategy for getting more quality patients in the door? That's from Candace. Dr.
Uh,
Kent, you want to maybe hit your top 2 or 3 ways that you bring patients in?
yeah, that's like my lowest thing right now. Um, I'm in the market for a marketer, but our website, having the right SEO and really good Google reviews, that helps us a lot. And then doing internal marketing programs where we're just basically talking to existing patients about referrals and their next care plan is probably our 2 biggest ones. And then we do a lot of social media also.
Yeah, that's. I can tell you that the Business Academy, we always promote to have 8 to 10 different streams of new patients. It's like think of it as Legos, building a Lego. Building something. You want to have different Legos, like whether it's your SEO, your website, your lunch and learns, dinner talks, doing health fairs, doing boots on the ground, guerrilla style marketing, um, and what many of our growing practices do is they have a marketing division where we train up the marketing staff to get patients for you. And so we have systems for that. And so there's a lot of different ways to get patients in the door. And your job is to become omnipresent in your community. You need to get out of obscurity, and that's going to push many of us, out of our comfort zone, right? Um, and we have to, you have to embrace that, and that's where sometimes it's better to hire a marketing personnel, like Dr. Kent was saying. He's looking for a marketer. Well, we train marketers to bring in 10, 20 new patients a week, for offices. So it's just a matter of um, learning, how to do that and implementing those systems. I still say that guerrilla style marketing, boots on the ground, will give you more patients and good quality patients at a lower cost per acquisition than you will in like social media, like your um, Facebook ads and stuff like that. But best way to bonus depends on your staff. Like your staff will bonus out differently depending on the areas that they're in their office. It's important to understand that every position in your organization should have a valuable final product. Valuable meaning it's exchangeable. You're paying them a certain wage for a product, right? And you bonus out on their ability to give you that product at a high level. And so there's different bonus structures that you can have based on what position they're in. So, as an example, we'll go back to that marketing department post. If someone's bringing new patients in the marketing, maybe they're getting, once they've hit 5 in a week, anything above 5, they get bonused out so much per head that they bring in. As an example, if you have a case manager who's doing your consultations and your report of findings, which we train on, I really do believe this because I've been with a lot of different groups. I think the Business Academy's report of findings process is the best in the business. That's actually got me into the Business Academy in 2004. I'm aging myself right now. I had a 35% conversion rate. It really sucked. And so when I saw people that had an 80, 90% conversion rate coming from the business academy, I wanted to learn how they were doing that because I was really weak at that. And when I ended up taking some courses on that, I went to 75, 80% closing rate, and it changed my life. I went from 100 visits a week to 600 visits a week in around a year and a half, 2 years. I eventually medically integrated, had multiple practices. Now I have 7 businesses based on the information that I learned from the Business Academy. And so it's but going back to that bonus thing, you bonus based on their production in their area. So a case manager might be, they get a percentage, a very small percentage of what they close. Let's say it's a 1 or 2% of what they close in cash as a bonus. And your front desk would have a different bonus structure. Your providers would have a different bonus structure, but it's all based on production, though. All right. I see, Robert. It says the current owner is wanting to stay at the level he is at. Well, that's a conversation. You mean at their current pay as an owner? You see, I want you guys to understand this. If you look at, remember I said the 3 types of employees in an organization. There's the owner, there's the founder, the dreamer, there's the manager, and there's the technician. When you're treating patients, you're a technician. Now, when you look into society, who typically makes the most money in society? A CEO of a company or a technician working in the company? CEO, right? So this doctor who's wanting to stay, he's taking his CEO hat, his owner hat off, and now he's putting a technician hat on. That doesn't come with the same pay. Does that make sense, guys? Because the responsibilities are so much less, right? So technically what he's wanting you to do is take over the responsibility of the organization, but he still wants to get paid as an owner. That's my 2 cents. Now, there's probably a better way to say that. That's my first thought, though, right? It's a conversation, right? Because his responsibilities or her responsibilities are going to be less, and yours are going to be more. Another question from Robert was, how long is the clinical report of findings? I think that really depends on the services that you're offering, but I really like a 2-day process. A consultation exam that followed up with a report of findings. Each of those, listen, if you're the provider doing it, typically it can go faster, but when you have a layperson doing it for you, you have to build in some time for them. So it's a 40-minute process on each of those, 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes an hour. It just depends on the type of practice that you have. Because you have to realize that we're in educational sales, right? We have to educate the patient on what we're going to be doing and what we're looking for. And that takes a little time. And what you'll find is that when you spend the time educating the patient, your conversion rates will be higher. So it's well worth the time spent with educating your patient. But that I know that can create more questions that you have, but this is where that I really, really recommend to schedule that free practice analysis, because this is where you can become fully transparent with Quentin and say, hey, this is what I do great at, but this is where I really suck. And this is where I really need help with. What would you do? How would you go about doing this? Because each and every one of us has different strengths and weaknesses. And so this isn't a cookie cutter thing. Everyone who joins the Business Academy is going to come in and they might take different courses. And that's the thing about this too, is we're not just a consulting company, we're a training organization. We're probably the only training organization that I know of in this space, because you actually take courses to learn so that you can apply. When you say that, Kent, like you're completely different than your previous consultants that you had, is that did they ever have you sit in a course room and study a topic so that you could duplicate it, so that you could take it home and learn and do it, right?
No, and they definitely never had the owners available by phone, like pretty much whenever. And I never had them drill me and help me get better at things. So
Yeah.
it's very different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. The other day, Kent, you called me up and you were like, "Hey, what about what were you? It was something in your ROF that we were trying to solve." and something with the spouses or something like that. And then we kind of found where the outness was there and, you know, fixed things up. And so yeah, I mean, we strive on our clients doing that much better and, you know, being that much more successful. So of course we want to be there and doing that. And I think that's been made quite a difference for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I can say that Gary, Quentin, and Brenna have all been on the phone with me at midnight their time, helping me with something. And they're not rushed, they're not in a hurry. And I can hear their kids in the background sometimes, and I'm like, don't you need to go? They're like, no, let's get this figured out. Um, I've never had a place that cared so much and was invested so much and spent so much time helping me.
That's awesome. Well, you didn't hear those kids at my house. That had
No,
to been calling Quentin.
no.
That was my
But
house.
then when you call Gary's house, you get his fiance's help too, which is amazing because she's also a rock star.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, so I'm going to tell you guys, first off, I would recommend you do two things. One is schedule that practice analysis with Quentin. It can save you a lot of heartache and save you a lot of time. Even if you don't move forward with the business academy, you'll have a little mini blueprint of what you need to focus on to get better. Number one. Two, if you really want to see what the business academy is like, I'd say come to a workshop. We do we offer people who've never been to any of our workshops before to come in for a discovery day where you can kind of see us in action. You can see the mastermind groups, you can see the courses that are being taught, you can see the groups that get together and whatnot. And so you can see kind of like right off the bat what we're all about. If you're a quick decision maker, which I can tell you this is one of the bits of information I got from Dr. Brian Dahmer, who has 6 practices going on 10, sees over 2,000 patients a week. And I remember someone asked him a few months ago, what makes you different than others, that are in the group that maybe have one office? And one of the things that he pondered that briefly, but he's like, one of the things that he's really good at is he makes fast decisions. He doesn't let time into the equation. He makes quick decisions and whatnot. So for those of you who are quick decision makers, we do have a workshop in Largo this weekend. So it's Tuesday. You'd be flying out in 2 days, 3 days, and you can experience it. For those of you who want to come in December, it's December 12th and 13th. That's our annual convention. And I think you guys would get a lot out of that as well. But any last questions for Dr. Kent, Quentin, or myself?